I'm doing a 70s hot rod, the era of big, fat, wide rear tires and a Jag IRS. The challenge is to have realistic looking coilovers because on my T-bucket they'll be very visible. The key is to make sure the spacing between the loops of the springs looks right. Often the reference photos of coilovers show them with the car jacked up, so the springs are extended, not carrying a load. What I want is the coils to look tighter, as they should when compressed by the weight of the car, but not too tight, so they look like the suspension still has room to function. One of our viewers, Bob Hines, is a veteran hot rod builder who has put independent rear suspensions on T-buckets. He's also an award-winning scale modeler. So when he sent me an eBay link to a 3D printed Jag IRS suitable for a hot rod, I decided to check it out. The first thing I noticed when I unpacked the part is that it is printed in one piece. That might make painting it a challenge, trying to get paint into the nooks and crannies. Overall, it has better detail than what's available in a kit. So I want to use this. That said, I think there's some room for improvement. It needs some cleaning up, but here's an opportunity to have some fun and make some springs. First of all, I want to check the track width. So I'm going to mount the tires, the IRS assembly, line it up with the body, make sure that the spacing's okay. Looks about right. I think that's good. Now I can take it apart, move to the next step. What I want to cut out is just the coils. I want to keep the end caps, the two circular discs that the coils mount to. So I need to cut right in here and right in here. That'll be an interesting challenge. And to add to the challenge, there are two on this side and two on that side. To cut out the coils, I'm using Scale Motorsports stainless steel blades and a razor saw. The razor saw cuts quicker, but the blades are more maneuverable in these tight spaces. I have to be careful and go slow because I don't want to break the part. The resin's actually really nice to cut. It's a lot like styrene. I think a serrated blade gives a cleaner cut than using a Dremel or an X-Acto knife. For general cleanup on the piece, I've removed burrs and sharp edges with sanding sticks. All 4 resin coils have been cut out. I'm just amazed I didn't crack or break this unit. Now that I've cut out the coils and cleaned the piece up, it's time for paint. I'm starting with a coat of TS14 as a primer because it'll smooth out the surface and not obscure the detail. And black because it's a good shadow color to go behind the Revell chrome. I'm going to let this dry and maybe put it in the dehydrator for half an hour. For the coils, I'm using some stainless steel wire that I've had in my stash for years. I have no idea where it came from. It's been great in the past to make coils. It's stainless and I can polish it, so it looks just like chrome. The question is, what size rod should I wrap this around to make the coils that will give me the same dimension as the coils I cut out? To figure that out, I take this dimension and double it because it happens twice within that coil, and then find out what that cylinder is left inside that I'd be coiling around and find a piece of metal. It's just the right dimension that I can wrap it around it so that the total matches the outside dimension of that part. This is the piece I'm going to use to simulate that shock absorber that goes inside the spring. I'll look around my studio and see what I can find that's the correct dimension to wrap my wire to make the coil. I'm laying on a medium coat of Revell chrome. I'll let that dry. In the meantime, I'll go to work on making the coils. The wiring I'm using is stainless steel, but I could have used brass or copper as well. In any case, it needs to be straightened. I stretch it to get it straight. Rather than have a clipped edge of wire, I curl the ends for safety. Because this is stainless steel, I'm going to polish it. After searching my studio for the rod to wrap this around, I found the steel posts from my painting rack to be the perfect diameter. Being steel, it will also be strong enough for me to wrap the wire around. First, I'm securing the end of the wire to the vise. I'm keeping the wire taut so that each pass touches the one below it. When removing it, I'm leaving ends that I can grab onto. I'm pulling the wires to extend the coils to the spacing I want. I'm using a spare piece of the same wire to test the spacing. Then I know the spacing is at least as wide as the material itself. The coil spring needs at least that much space to compress before it bottoms out. If it's not evenly spaced, I can go in with my fingers and coax it. I'm measuring the spacing where the spring will go between the two plates. I'll then transfer that to the spring itself. Mark off the end with a piece of tape. I'm just double checking to make sure it looks right. I tried cutting it with snips the first time, but it distorted. Now I'm going to use a wheel on my Dremel. I have the cut coil. I'm going to smooth the bottom edge so it sits flat against the plate when it's mounted in the part. I have the section of metal rod that simulates the shock absorber, even though it's one smooth piece of rod, does a good job simulating. I think it looks good, but I think it could be improved. The material the coils are made out of may be too thick, making fewer turns for the length of the coil. I think I should be using thinner wire so I get more loops. The coil would look better, more realistic. I'm going to try it with thinner wire. That looks great. Sliding the shock absorber inside the spring. Here's the comparison. We have the original version with the thicker stainless steel coils and the new copper version with the thinner coils. I'm really liking the thinner coils. I think they are more realistic. Take a look at a real photo and how coils look. Those start to look really heavy and chunky. Maybe great for a heavier rod or something, or a NASCAR modified. But this is nice and thin, more graceful like you'd find on a lighter weight street rod. I'm going to go make 3 more copper ones and spray them with chrome. Wow, it just popped right in. Okay, so this is passenger side rear. It's only the spring tension that's holding them at the moment. I'm going to put a dab of glue on the back of each connecting point to lock it in place. Same on the other side. With the assembly all together, I look at this and I know it was worth taking the time to cut out the 3D printed springs and replace them with real springs. The look is more defined. It was worth taking the time, when I thought I was done before, to evaluate it, come to the conclusion that the springs I made the first time around were a little too thick. Maybe they worked out mathematically fine, but they just looked out of scale. I spent the time, I made a whole new set of springs, and this is perfect. It's worth it to do what makes you happy. You take it to whatever level you want. Don't forget to check out our affiliate links in the description below. We may earn a small commission at no cost to you. And if you want to follow the build of the T-Bucket, become a patron of Model Car Muse. The link is in the description. Follow your muse wherever you may find it, and may there always be a project on your bench. Thanks for watching.